of the things I try and teach my son, as I imagine many parents try and teach their children, is how hurting people is bad, I guess, simply put. From a young age, you try and teach that lesson. You try and teach the idea of, you don't want to hurt other people. That's not a good thing. And I think the first inclination or instinct is to teach that in such a way of exactly that. Like, hey, don't hurt anybody. Don't hurt anybody. Don't hit anybody. Don't bite anybody. Don't do anything don't steal their toy. Don't hurt other people. Don't be mean to other people, right? Whatever you want to word it. But then pretty quickly you get to the next piece, which is, well, don't hurt anybody unless. And usually there's some caveats there. There becomes these rules put in place where if they are hurting you or threatening you, right, you can defend yourself. Then you can hurt somebody. You don't usually teach it in that way of don't hurt anybody unless this. Usually don't finish the statement because it doesn't sound nice. But that's in effect what we're teaching. Don't hurt anybody unless you think they're going to hurt you, then you can hurt them. Or maybe they're going to hurt somebody else. Maybe they're treating somebody else poorly, right? Whatever the threshold is, that's what you're teaching. You're teaching that there's some threshold that can be hit. There's certain circumstances that when that box is checked, you have the green light to go hurt that other person or do something bad to that person, right? Hurt, not necessarily physical violence, but do something bad in that situation. And obviously that's better than just saying hurt anybody whenever you want. But the problem I see with it is that it puts a lot of faith, a lot of trust in our minds, right? Which as we talk about all the time, are flawed. There's biases, there's blind spots, there's identity issues, there's emotional things that come into play. There's certainty that creeps in, which then makes us feel like, well, we have the moral high ground and we can act. There's all these things that can make the processing you do to determine if the threshold has been met for you to get the green light to hurt somebody. There's a lot of opportunities for that to go wrong. And as I talk about all the time, certainty is such a risk to us and how we function in our behavior, because when we reach it, we lose objectivity and we just feel like we lose our ability to really question, and we just go. So you can imagine that in a certain circumstance where if, a simple, silly one, if you're on the playground and you think this person's about to hurt you, you might hit that person and you might, beat them up, and you might feel totally right. And like, hey, I was protecting myself. And in some situations, that's the right decision. The issue I see with it, again, though, is the ability for it to go wrong. And how do you account for that? So the phrase that I actually teach my son here, and it wasn't intentional at first. I thought more about it recently, but I don't know if it was subconscious or it was luck, or maybe I thought about it at some point and I forgot. But the phrase that I teach him in those situations is, just because you can hurt somebody, it doesn't mean that you should. And at first glance, it feels like, okay, yeah, similar. But I think the words are important here. And I think that's where the power of this phrase comes from, of which I find it important, and I teach it so much and I say it so much. Because in many ways, if you break that down, what I'm really saying is, hey, there are going to be situations where that threshold is met and you feel like you can hurt somebody, right? Just because you can hurt somebody. So it's almost accepting that fact, that in life, on the playground, in your professional career, in your political career, whatever it is, there's going to be a situation that arises where it feels as if I am okay to do this bad thing, right? Maybe fear has crept in and it allows you to think that you have no choice. Maybe your anger just took over and emotions took over, your identity feels attacked, or whatever it is, you just have this blind spot bias. For whatever reason, you feel certain in your mind. You've reached that level of certainty that I am now within my rights to hurt this person or do this bad thing, right? That will happen. I'm not going to make pretend to you that will not happen. That will absolutely happen. But then the next part kicks in. Just because you can hurt somebody, it doesn't mean that you should. And again, those words are important. It's not that you shouldn't. It is possible that you will reach certainty, and it is the right thing for you to do to defend yourself or to protect somebody else or to do something, that's going to hurt somebody else. It's possible that is right. But as the phrase suggests, it's a flag. It's a gate. It's a checkpoint to question, to just say, hey, you've reached certainty. But don't do that. Still question. Still stay objective. Make sure that it's the right thing for you to do going forward. Don't let that blind green light just lead you to go, right? Because in many ways, with the flaws of our mind and how it functions, as we talk about, that's the best you can hope for, is to just do that little bit more questioning. Because we're going to get it wrong. Our math's going to be off for all the reasons we talk about. There's going to be times that we get it wrong. It's inevitable. But the hope is that at least with that little bit more of questioning, you'll get it right more than you get it wrong. It gives you the best chance you can have to not let certainty run rampant. So again, back to the phrase, just because you can hurt somebody, just because you're in a certain position of power, again, the dynamics are such where you think you can do it and you have the moral high ground or you'll get away, whatever it is that justifies that I can do this right now, right? And you will be in that moment when that certainty clicks in and you say, hey, I can do it. That's the time to stop and say, but should I do it? Let me check one more time and just check my math again. Should I do this? Am I really sure the threshold's been met? Am I really sure this is the right way that I want to go? To me, if that's what my son can do, right? If that's what he can keep in his mind later in life when it gets really hard, I think that's the best we can hope for.